Fantasy Network live stream. Tonight it's an online championship draft, a Beat Vlad Sedler Roto Gut special edition, late night. Man, it's late night. I'm up. So there you go. $150,000 grand prize on the line. It's me, it's Darik, it's Vlad. You can see all three of us here. Vlad, welcome tonight. Are you all ready to go? You're picking from the 11 hole in this 12-team draft. Are you ready for this one tonight?
Yeah, I'm ready. I mean, these evening drafts is when crazy things happen. I absolutely love it. The one kind of interesting thing is I didn't exactly want to draft from the end here. This will be my third OC. I've had one from the middle, which was like basically like the dream draft with what had fallen, and then I had another late draft, which was okay. But the landscape's changed a little bit here over the last week with a lot of the guys in this range hurting right now. I'm sure they'll be fine over the course of the season, or hopefully all be ready for opening day. But I can think at least of three guys that go in this range, back end of a first rounder, that will probably end up falling.
Hey, real quick, Vlad, I did look at your KDS setting. If you allow me to say it, I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
So you had 1 through 6 as your first 6, and then you went 11, 12, and then 10 down through 7. So does that mean you have 6 guys that you kind of have in a tier, and you're now wanting to move to the back end with after those 6?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty much everyone. I don't think everyone has the same 6, but it's pretty close, and you can pretty much guess where it is. And it sort of ends with Tucker there in the first 5, pretty usual. And then 7, 8, don't necessarily love it. I also like to play the game of what can fall to me. Things always happen in drafts, and I love it when things end up falling. And so I just figured, hey, if I maybe take the back end, see what might drop down to me. Jordan Alvarez, if it were not for the hand thing, he would be right there, maybe even ahead of Tucker, but definitely right there.
Darik, we are in. It's obviously March 3rd tonight. We're right in the meat of our drafting season. A lot of these RotoWire online championship drafts selling out. Everything's selling out. We're literally 2 weeks away from the start of our live events. They'll start up in New York 2 weeks from today, and then a week after that, we'll be off to Las Vegas. So it's really, like I said, the meat of drafting season right now, isn't it?
It is, and you mentioned 2 weeks, and for the guys actually drafting, 2 weeks is nothing. For weeks is an eternity because we got about 1,000 drafts we got to take care of before that.
But, yeah, a lot going on, and obviously now the draft is starting up here. Like Vlad says, he'll be in the 11th hole, so we got a little bit of time till we get to him. So a lot of these drafts going on right now at playnfbc.com. If folks tuning in for the first time want to get into a great draft or an auction, we got those going on as well, of course. Our entry fees start as low as $50. These RotoWires are $350. Again, the grand prize is $150,000 in the RotoWire Online Championship, and we're selling these things out every single day. Throughout the day, they'll start as early as noon Eastern. So tomorrow, Saturday, they'll begin at noon Eastern, run throughout the day. And Ronald Acuna Jr., first player off the board. No surprise right now. Vlad, Darik, and I were talking on our Sirius show the other night. I'm starting to feel like Acuna is separating himself a little bit as the first overall pick. Do you think that's the case right now?
It seems like it. I mean, he's at full strength. He's healthy. He's going to lead off the top of what looks to be baseball's best lineup. He steals bases. He does everything. So a very solid number 1 pick. Pretty much what I've been doing all season. I've had the 1 pick quite a few times. I just haven't been diversifying. It's been Acuna for me all the time. Unfortunately, that means I have no Judge. So even when I've gotten a 2 or a 3 or even a 4 pick, for whatever reason, Judge is always gone before I get a chance. So far, through about 15 OCs now, 15 DCs, 3 OCs, some gladiators, I have no Judge. So we'll see how that ends up.
We did have our first kind of semi-surprise. Juan Soto goes 4th after Acuna, Ramirez, and Julio Rodriguez. I don't think I've seen him at 4 for a long time. It's been maybe since the early October DCs where somebody was maybe taking them that high. So that 6 Vlad was talking about just turned into a 7.
Well, and that's we know him at 4. He is he goes by MKG_sports. He's a big better card guy, so he likes to roll the dice a little bit. I'm sure he saw the Soto news, but I'm sure he just knows he's not going to get back to him. So yeah, maybe that's why he took him.
And again, Darik, we were talking again on our Sirius show about not taking these early spring training results too seriously and bumping Soto up, but here Soto jumps into the top 5. He is off to a really good start in spring training and kind of looking like Juan Soto again. So maybe Soto is a guy who starts jumping up the ADP list a little bit. I think we may start seeing that more and more often.
Well, he was top 3 guy last year, right? So if you believe he's back, but we all thought he was going to do last year, so it's warranted. Just a lot of good picks in the first round here. It's really hard to go wrong.
Yeah. And we'll get Vlad's thoughts on his pick after he makes it here. Bo Bichette jumping into the top 10 in this draft. After going kind of maybe early second round, mid second round on these RotoWires throughout the early drafting season, but now he's kind of creeping his way back up. I think people feeling a little bit better about Bo Bichette right now. All right, Yordan Alvarez. Again, the hand issue, Vlad, that has been a bit of a concern, or at least a red flag, if you will, early on. Give us your thoughts about Yordan there at 11.
It's concerning for sure. Definitely, especially with the fact that it was an issue last season and it's crept back up. It's the last thing we want to see as a Yordan Alvarez guy. I think if I had just one draft and I was in this position, I don't think I would do it. I think it's because I am doing a few of these. So I want to mix it up. I want to get a little bit of a deal where usually he would be going earlier. So that's kind of why I took him there. But it's definitely concerning. I mean, there are obviously great players in this range, a lot less risky because they have no injury issues right now. But yeah, that's how I felt like that was the right move right there.
All right, Manny Machado closes out round 1 there. Big new contract for Machado with the Padres. I'm sure the Padres are very happy to get him locked up, not have to worry about that as the season goes on.
Yeah, that's
Junior, of course.
That's a friend of ours. Also, it's Mike Armstrong. It's actually Chef Mike Armstrong. He's a sort of a celebrity chef in L.A., Vegas. He's an FTN subscriber, hardcore fantasy baseball player, but really awesome dude. We've been to some of his restaurants before, so yeah, he's drafting there, probably sniping me on the corner there.
So he probably felt like he just double chef kiss those picks on with Machado bet.
Yeah, a little SoCal flavor there.
All right, and you take the first starting pitcher off the board there, Vlad. Again, was this about diversifying, or do you feel like we're going to see more starting pitchers creeping up earlier than their ADPs have been going as we get closer to the start of the season?
Yeah, I mean, the 12 teamers are a little bit of a different animal. I think you can always, I think the starting pitching never really gets pushed up as it gets later to March in the OCs as it does in the main events. I mean, you show up to the main event where like a 212 ADP Sonny Gray starts going like 160, right? And crazy things happen. I think in the 12 teamers, it's a little different. I did sort of map this out. I didn't have a chance to kind of do the full draft, but I did look over the first 8 to 10 rounds to kind of see what targets I want to have in this draft. And I pretty much convinced myself I was going to come out of here with just a strong hitter and then one of Burns or the other guy that has yet to be drafted that is a pitcher.
Now, I want to ask you a question because Team 10 just does this with Bichette and Guerrero. We see in football, of course, stacking is a very popular thing, and certainly in DFS, but we're seeing it more in season long too. What about in baseball, Vlad? When you look at a great lineup, right? The Blue Jays obviously have a great lineup. The Braves have a great lineup. Do you think we see more of that in baseball going forward where you start targeting players, stacking a lineup in season long? You see it in DFS, obviously, but do you think we see that becoming more of a thing in season-long fantasy baseball?
I think it's most applicable in best balls. I think in your cut line tournament, especially if the timing works out when certain cuts happen or towards the end of the cut line season, you got the right guys all hitting at the right time at the same time with a good schedule, facing bad pitching. You can really hit it big. I don't intentionally ever stack in these things in standard roto, but I think it's worth noting if you think back to last season, how 3 Dodgers ended up all with first round value. Granted, they had expensive price tags. They were all basically first, second round players. And then the previous year, it was the Toronto Blue Jays, where you had like 4 guys in the first round return first round value. And some of those guys were available later, like Teoscar Hernandez and whomever. So it's about the draft capital. It's about, if you have a team that you really like an offense you think is going to start going, kind of going off collectively that season and just be like a riser, if you are able to grab these guys in the right spots, like maybe you think the Diamondbacks are just going to be, off the chain this year, and you're looking at a 70th ADP Carroll and a Walker, McCarthy, all these guys, that's decent draft capital you're investing in on a team at sort of lower price points. I think that could work out.
Yeah, for sure.
And we do have a second starting pitcher, of course, off the board there. Team 6 grabbing Garrett Cole. Now we have seen a lot of these RotoWires go through 2 full rounds without a single starting pitcher go off the board. So this is a little bit unique with Burns going to Vlad there, and then Team 6 grabbing Garrett Cole.
Yeah,
so seeing 2 starting pitchers.
I don't think I've seen it now, though, for at least a week to 10 days. These pitchers are starting to creep up even in the OCs. And we just had Spencer Strider go at the end of the second, so now we're 3 pitchers and technically 4 if you count Ohtani and then McClanahan. So there we see the run coming. But I want to ask you real quick about Mike Trout. I'm big time back in this year. What are your thoughts on Trout this year?
I mean, it's always the same thing. We can't predict whether he's going to play a full season. We always hope that it's that year because we know that he can easily produce a profit if he plays 145 plus games, even without the stolen bases. He's a guy that best shot to hit 50 home runs, and outside of maybe Judge and Alvarez, and can return that first round value, or he's a second rounder, but earn first round value even without the stolen bases. Just kind of does a little bit of everything. I'm very bullish on the Angels offense this year. I really like them collectively. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what I will do in main event season. If he's on the board for me in the second round, I might take a shot. The problem is I'm already sort of a risk drafter as is. And so if I take that risk early and I will still be kind of taking risks later on, I could put myself in a position to have a troubling team.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mentioned on our Serious Show Wednesday night, I'm probably the least risk-averse person that I know drafting-wise. So I like the Trouts, the Buxtons, the DeGroms. I litter them all over my teams, and if it bites you in the butt, it bites you in the butt. But if you get the right combination and stats, your teams can fly. So I like playing that way.
I got the 3rd pick in Raz Slam, and I'm telling you right now, if Trout's on the board in the second round, he ain't falling past me.
That would be pick 22. So probably not there.
Never know.
We'll see. And as I mentioned,
and now we are seeing a run on starting pitchers here. So, like Derek's saying, it's the game is changing a little bit in the RotoWires now in the last week or so. McClanahan there starting, Woodruff, DeGrom, and Spencer Strider. Vlad, he really is the darling of 2023 at starting pitchers, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I pointed out on the FTN podcast, the baseball podcast, this earlier this week. Matthew Davis and I were going over starting pitchers and just how wild it is, the specific statistic of him versus Sandy Alcantara, who basically they had about 95, I think, inning difference between them. Strider had 95 less, yet they only had a 6 strikeout difference total. And so obviously Alcantara is solid. It was amazing last year. I mean, he can even produce an ERA under 3 and be really nice and solid. But I mean, Strider plays for the Braves. If you think he can make 28 plus starts, I mean, you're looking at a guy that could potentially be the SP1. Maybe you get 270 plus strikeouts.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. And there goes Alcantara off the board there. So 4 starting pitchers out of the first 5 in round number 3. So a big run there. Marcus Semien breaks it there.
That's a good point, by the way, in the chat. Somebody, I hadn't even really wrapped my head around it. Someone said, "Oh, you got a nice second baseman there at the end of the first turn with Mookie Betts, right? Because he's going to get second base eligibility at some point. You pop him in at second. That's really nice."
Yep. Yeah, we kind of touched on that in the Serious Show the other night. I mean, I could see Mookie climbing back into the first round. Well, certainly in the main's different 15 teams, but I mean, jumping maybe even back into the top 10 would not surprise me with Mookie, with the dual eligibility possibly coming up. Everybody gambling on that, because I do think it's going to happen. I mean, it's 10 games in season.
It just takes a Dodger fan as well. Just takes one Dodger fan. So
I don't draft like that though. I'm always
I wasn't saying you.
Careful. Yeah, I know.
I wasn't.
I know you were saying me.
All right,
And
so you're
there's our
almost up
first
on round 3 here. You've got Alvarez and a starting outfielder and a starting pitcher. Does that eliminate you? I don't think it does, but does it eliminate you from anything here?
No, not necessarily. Think I don't love this range of hitters. I don't think they're really any like this isn't a bad place to grab just a solid bat. I think in one of these next 2 picks, I don't really need to make there isn't much profit potential on a guy that's going in the 3rd. You're not necessarily looking at a guy to return first round value, but you get a guy in the middle of a good lineup that can get you 200 plus RBI. There are a few guys like that who can who can be nice and solid for me here. Probably will mix it up. Probably take one of each. So I'm probably going to hit another pitcher here.
Alrighty.
And our first closer off the board there, team number 8 taking Edwin Diaz.
And then a catcher, team 10.
And there's, of course, the first catcher off the board, as is always the case, JT Realmuto.
And that's
Jazz Chisholm's got some crazy
he's got
helium.
helium too. Yeah, he does too.
Really solid.
Another guy that's going to have two position eligibility with second base and outfield as soon as he gets 10 games in outfield.
Mm-hmm.
And there's your solid bat and Frankie Lindor.
Thoughts on Lindor real quick?
Yeah, people aren't over the moon about him, but a guy hitting right in front of Pete Alonso in that lineup, consistent, pretty much healthy every season. Maybe steals a little bit more than usual. Maybe he does hit 20 bags. It's absolutely possible, and you likely will get the 200 plus run RBI out of him. So just kind of what I'm looking for here. I don't need to kind of hit home runs here. I'm fine with grabbing somebody like that. Him and Alvarez feels like a decent start with the hitters.
Couple of comments. Team 9 has Junior, and Junior as his first 3 picks. Nicely done.
Thing. It's a thing. Someone did that. I pointed that out in a tweet a few weeks ago. It was actually one of my last, I think, OCs. Same thing. It was maybe it's the same guy.
Huh. Interesting. Not bad picks. I mean, I like the picks. Yep. I mean, if they hit.
Mm-hmm. All right, this is working out. That's who. That's actually who I was hoping for. So I was playing a little game of draft chicken with the chef there at the end. I figured, I'd pass up on Class A. Figure I'll grab my closer a little bit later. It's obviously a good deal for him. Pick 36. You don't see him usually go that late in OCs. But no, he's elite. He's awesome. But just didn't necessarily want to go with the closer there. But Max Scherzer, I absolutely wanted. He's a top 5 starting pitcher for me. I don't care that his ADP's in the 40s in the OCs. I think that's mispriced. So figured I'd grab him.
Yeah, I like it. I don't think he's in my top 5. I think I got him probably 8 or 9, but I'm not going to pull feathers there. The guy that went right after him, though, Dylan Cease, that's the guy I'm down on this year. I know he was awesome last year. I just have, like you would say, Vlad, a gut feeling that he's just not going to be the same pitcher. What are your thoughts on Cease?
Yeah, I think a lot of analysts are in the same boat. Me as well. He's the one guy that is in this tier that I actually have in my pitching articles a tier below. And really, it has nothing to do with, could lead the league in strikeouts. It's very possible. I think the White Sox are going to bounce back in a really big way. But all of his ratio indicators, right? He had like a 2.20 ERA. All the indicators are like 3.5, which is more around where he is. And he is literally the only guy in this range that basically has a walk rate over 9%. In fact, I think it was like 10.5, and it was the worst walk rate among starting pitchers that qualified. I think Nick Pivetta was the only guy close to him, and he was like at 9.5. So that's dangerous. Cease is awesome. He's amazing, but I don't see a 2.5 ERA again, and I think the walk rate is a little bit concerning.
Yeah. I do want to ask you, Vlad, you and team 2 right now are the only ones with 2 starting pitchers, of course, depending on what some of these other guys do. How much of an advantage do you think you're playing with at this point with those 2 top starting pitchers? Now, again, it depends on what some of these other teams do coming back on the way back, but do you feel like you're gaining an advantage that you can work with from this point with starting pitching?
Yeah, there's so many different ways I've built, and I have won OCs before, and it's been the first 3 are hitters, or I've gone 2 pitchers in the first 3, and I've won leagues both ways. I don't think there's any one formula for this season. Obviously, I'd like to win my league, but I'm also shooting for the top prize, shooting for the overall. and having a nice stable base of ratios, guys with massive strikeout. That's them. That's Burns and Scherzer, two guys over 30% strikeout rates over the last few years. So I'm content with that start, and it gives me a little bit of flexibility. So if I want to hit pitching heavier here, I'm fine. There are a lot of hitters I like later that I can go after, or I can grab another solid hitter and go closer. I feel like it gives me a little bit of flexibility.
Yeah, for sure. I think that when you're playing for the overalls, the ratios and even batting average on the offensive side, it's tough to make up ground after Memorial Day, right? You can do it in saves, you can do it in steals, you can do it in wins, Ks, but if your ratios aren't good from the start, you're in trouble in the overall. You're just not going to get there. So I echo your sentiments that guys like Burns and Scherzer on the pitching side that can anchor those ratios are huge.
Yeah, I think only 1 year that I just had this one guy that just had such a massive influence and raised me to the top. And it was a different contest. This is before NFBC, actually, before you guys were founded. But it was like 2003, I believe, right around the time you guys were founded. It was the CDM game, which obviously you guys own now, but the Diamond Challenge. And at the time, it was the biggest prize in fantasy. It was a $25,000 prize. My friend in college convinced me to play it. And the following year after college, I made a big dent. I think I was like, out of 15,000 people, I was like 3,000th overall at the All-Star break. And I picked up this guy named Oliver Perez that was insane. He literally was like, 9, 10, 12 strikeouts with no runs, like for like all the second half. And I'll never forget that. He got me up to 4th overall that year.
Nice. So yeah, but what you're talking about is very few and far between, right? You got to start off
very rare.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been 20 years, right, since that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, time flies.
No, those are difficult. Those are like you say, you fall into a hole in those 3 categories. It's awful tough climbing out. It just is.
And we can see how different these OCs are, because I mean, you don't see this in any other contest where guys like Christian Javier, O'Neal Cruz, really big upside helium picks with obviously big I think low floors as well, going at the 48, 49. And in some ways that's crazy, and then in some ways it's understandable.
Yeah, I agree. The 12s, and this contest in particular, you see that you don't even see that in our other 12-team contest. Now, the NFBC 50s, not quite the same makeup, but you don't see that.
Yeah, all my targets are going, so we're going to be left with boring guys by the time it gets back around to me, or maybe some deals. We'll see.
That's the problem with you giving out your guys. Everyone sees them.
Yeah.
Well, again, when you're shooting for $150,000, there comes a point even early in drafts where you've got to play for that overall, and you got to take some chances. You got to take some of those helium picks, like you said, that have a chance for the 6-figure grand prize. You can't always play it safe, even in early rounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's that could very well be a max on Eloy. I can check real quick.
Feels
yeah,
like
yeah. His previous max over the last 2 weeks was 68, and there he is at 50. So, and that's another FTN sub, Chris Kirby, so who's joined us today.
Got a room full of them.
Yeah, and by the way, the people whose name I mentioned said that they're okay with it, so I'm not gonna not gonna out somebody that doesn't want to be. Like Team 5. Hey, Team 5.
Nice.
I try not to show these stickers just in case people don't want their names out there. So if we're identifying people, it's because they let us know it's okay that they're being ID'd. So
you got a few picks before you're up again, Vlad. Are you ready for Vegas?
Oh yeah, I can't wait, man. This is going to be, it's the weekend of the year. I'm doing my first auction in 5 years.
That's right.
On the Friday morning, so I'm pretty pumped up about that. Usually I just like to do the main event, and I like to socialize and hang out and see everybody and catch up and chat. But this year, I don't know. Last year I was watching the auction, and I'm like, man, I need to get into this. So I'm happy I'm back into that.
Awesome. Another helium guy.
We want to let folks know, in case you don't know, this is our 20th anniversary season. Darik, of course, not as old as Greg and I, so he hasn't been around for all 20 years like Greg and I have. But 20 years of live events coming up again. Like I said, starting 2 weeks from today in New York. Greg and I will be out there. Then the following week, Greg, Darik, and I, we're going to be doing, somebody's just mentioned, I think you're talking about the MTM party, not the FT. Well, we got an FTN. Are you guys doing a party out there in Vegas, Vlad?
No, you know
You guys
what?
doing anything?
If we usually do a happy hour, but that's when it was at the Bellagio, and we would do
Okay.
one nearby at the Vidara. So I've had some difficulty trying to arrange something at the Mirage, and I think just so many people are busy. So I think this year, unfortunately, might just catch people in the draft rooms, and obviously at MTM party, your guys' party on Saturday. But outside of that, we'll probably wait till next year.
Yeah, real quick, as you
Yeah,
mentioned that, Vlad, we're having our debut Saturday night Vegas crapshoot. So it's 8:00 p.m. Pacific, essentially after the auctions on Saturday, which are after the main events, and it's right in the ballrooms area there. It's free for everybody. We're gonna have some drinks and some snack food, and we're gonna have some drawings and prizes and a couple of drafts at the end of the night. So it's just another chance to get out and socialize, have some fun, win some prizes, and then possibly get into some different types of drafts. There's going to be nine different drafts that we're going to spin a wheel. We've got a vintage 1980s-esque casino type wheel that lights up and stuff. It's quite fun. The brainchild, of course, of Mike the Mouth Masato. But we're going to have a good time. So if you're out there, come and join us. Have some fun.
Yeah, no, the Vegas week is going to be absolutely spectacular. Got a lot going on out there. So, like Darik said, again, we got spots available in New York, in Las Vegas, but the Vegas week, we've got hundreds of people staying at the Mirage. Got a lot going on out there. It is going to be a big time. Our 20th anniversary, going to be inducting Sean Johnson into the Hall of Fame. Going to have 8 main event leagues on Saturday morning.
Just
So
a few
that's going to be
spots left
huge.
too. So if you want to
Yeah,
get in
Like
now.
12, I think.
Yeah.
Last I looked.
It's less than that.
Yeah,
It's like 7.
it's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it. All right, so Josh Hader off the board there for you, Vlad. Your first closer, obviously. Was this kind of the spot you were targeting a closer? Is this where you wanted to get your guy?
Yeah, because waiting any longer, I mean, I could fall on a Kenley type or have to push like a Clay Holmes. You know, I don't necessarily want to do that for my RP1. I'd rather have nice stability in ratios, even though, of course, Josh Hader did not provide that last season. But I do think he had obviously some family issues, and with the birth of his son and his wife having complications. There were just a lot of things. Moving to San Diego, there were a lot of problems last year for him that I think affected him on the field. And so I think I think he's going to bounce back just fine. I think he could easily be, the number one or a closer this year. And then of course he's pitching for San Diego. They're going to get, I think, a lot of save opportunities this season, and I think he'll close most of them out.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I'm completely on board.
Look at all that yellow in the last.
So
Look at all that yellow in the last couple of rounds.
Yeah. Chef is getting after it there, man. I've actually would have considered Castillo. This is turning into a little bit of a pitching heavy build. But let's see. I'm going to switch it up a little bit.
And before Vlad makes his pick, I'm going to say Dalton Varsho end of round 5 is the latest I've seen him go in a long time.
I have no Dalton Varsho shares, and I would have taken him.
Sure.
There. I would have taken him there for sure. That's a controversial one, maybe for some people. I think some people concerned about Ozzy Albies. He's quote unquote an accumulator. He's coming off the shoulder injury. Little guy, but man, I don't know. I want to get any piece I can of this Atlanta offense. I don't think he's going to come back to the next turn. Nice to get a solid second baseman. I mean, he said he's going to go 40-40. Obviously, that's not happening. But 25-20, I think is definitely in the cards.
Yeah, and you take that. You take it there. We had a question. Our poll question on Wednesday night on Sirius was, what second baseman did you like at cost? Wasn't it, Tom?
Yeah.
Basically. So there was Chisholm,
basically we're looking at
Altuve.
4 second basemen all going about same ADPs. Obviously, they changed up tonight. It was Semien, Chisholm, Altuve, and Albies.
Yeah.
Chisholm won the poll. That's who Darik and I voted for. I was hesitant though. I thought about Albies, Vlad. Who would you have voted for out of those 4 guys?
Chisholm, Albies. Who were the others?
Semien
And Altuve.
for the cost, I mean, it is Albies really because he's 2-3 rounds lower than all of them. But the other three guys you mentioned, I have them in my VDP higher than ADP. I really think that all three are absolutely solid smash for what they do. Obviously, Simeon maybe maybe you get a little downturn of the batting average. Altuve may not run as much as he did last year, but everything else is going to be pretty consistent. And Jazz. I mean, Jazz is, if he stays healthy, man, I think he's going to rake. He'll be fine too. He's one of those guys I may end up having FOMO on. I just haven't landed on really many shares, but Albies for the price.
Got to give Anthony Gialdi and his hockey team the shout out. Got a Kansas City Moose shirt on tonight.
I have like 3 of them, and I got the hat behind me. I'm always wearing like some sort of.
They're the most comfortable T-shirts I have.
Yeah, they are. They're nice. Nice vendor, Anthony. Or do you make them yourself, hand stitch?
All right, so midway through round 6, let's look for any surprises. Again, Varsho is gone. That's as late as I've seen him go in a long time, maybe ever, in the OCs. O'Neill Cruz, as Vlad mentioned, pretty early. Anything else, guys?
No, I mean, I think, let's see what I'm going to look up. Carroll last couple weeks was 53,
he's moving up
was
too.
the min. But yeah, this is going to be his new range, especially that little video of him. Just, he can. I think the bet. I think if you go online and bet a future on Corbin Carroll to win the MVP. I'm sorry, the stolen base lead in the NL. I think you could. The odds have gone up in the last couple of days, of course, obviously, or have gotten worse. But
worse, right? Yeah.
But yeah, that's still a good bet.
That guy can run, boy. Oof.
Yep.
Yes, he can. I caught a game the other day. Just a routine grounder to short. I mean, they threw him out by a half step. I mean, he just was flying down the line. So he can run. He can run.
Except for it'll be fast team, except for Christian Walker, of course.
Hopefully he gets to be able to trot.
Yeah, I was gonna say he doesn't have to run; he can trot. That's one guy we were doing our auction, Darik. He was the number 2 first baseman I wanted. I backed off him because he came before Crone. Crone was the one I really wanted, and then when I couldn't get Crone, I was kicking myself for not getting Walker earlier. That's what I hate about auctions.
I'll take Walker. Honestly, between those guys, I'll take Walker all day just because, man, I mean, if you look at Cron's numbers away from Coors and basically all those guys, it's a mess.
Yeah.
And the first half of the season, by the way, I don't even think Colorado gets an all-home week for like the first 2 months of the season. It's almost like it's on purpose. Yep. It's weird.
But when they're in Coors, it's just crazy watching him at Coors.
Yeah.
It's just
he had over
he's
2/3.
Just freaking Babe Ruth at Coors. It's so much fun watching him.
He puts up like 70% of his counting stats in Coors.
I know,
he's
but it's
unusable on the road. You cannot use him on the road.
It's just
terrible.
I'm sorry. It's just fun watching him at Coors. It's just nuts how stupid, ridiculous the ball jumps off his bat at Coors.
There will be some people that take good advantage of that, though, with our biweekly semi-weekly hitting stats. You start him in Coors and you use somebody else when he's on the road.
Yep. I do agree. I've always thought Christian Walker was an undervalued kind of guy for the last few years. It seems like I think a bit of a late bloomer.
Yeah, he's 32 years old already. So,
yep. Well, he had the big season in 2018, I believe. I think right after, what was it? Goldschmidt was already gone. 2019, he hit 29 home runs and 600 plate appearances, even stole 8 bags. And then was basically hurt the the following 2 years, like the pandemic year, 2020 and 2021. His numbers really suffered. So it was no surprise to see what he did last year. And it's funny, I'm selling this guy right before he's even being drafted. But second half of last season, if you remember the first half, he hit around the Mendoza and he hit a lot of home runs, 22 of them. In the second half, he was hitting for better contact. He basically hit 285 in the second half. So,
ton of power. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember actually going on the wire pod in middle of May, and they asked me, who's the power guy you want and who's the speed guy you want the rest of the year, and I went both Diamondbacks. I went Walker and Rojas, worked out really nice. So,
Ooh, man. Even this is what I don't like about drafting with MKG, the guy that just took Vinny Greco. Dude, he just does not even look. Probably doesn't look at ADP. Just picks. But like all the hot guys and the guys that you want to like kind of fall to you.
yeah,
So
they don't.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
watched.
always is there. He's always there in the 80s.
Yeah, OC last night. He went in the 10th round.
Damn, MKG, get out of here, man.
So we got I only have about 15 minutes left. I don't know if you guys are going to stay longer or not. My wife a little bit sick tonight. I have to go pick my daughter up. So Vlad, before you pick, you're a little bit of a ways again. Just make sure everyone knows where they can find you, what you guys got going on, so we don't get rushed for it at the end.
Yeah, I think if you don't know, I'm on Twitter. It's at RotoGut, and then all of my work and my colleagues' work is at ftnfantasy.com. Got the VDP projections, the rankings for 15 teamers, 12 teamers, very NFBC focused content. Lots of fantastic writers on staff, including Eric Cross, Matthew Davis, Michael Govier, Jake Kuchek with the Prospect Vault, Adam Young, up and coming writer, doing a lot of good strategy stuff for us. So very NFBC centric content. Definitely sign up, and actually you can do 20% off with FTN Pod is our promo code there.
Perfect. And we thank you guys for
you guys
being
do a lot of
NFB
great stuff.
centric.
I think, do we got a live stream coming up next week, Darik? With Michael?
Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, we have a Michael Govier RotoWire online championship.
All right, so we'll do another one next week. Try to get maybe get one more in before we. Oh no, I think the week after that we're off to New York, so that might be. Maybe we'll get one more in after that.
Probably get one in on Monday or Tuesday, and that'll probably be it for a bit.
All right. Yeah, we're it's crunch time now, kids. So before live events, so it's hard to believe. It's all coming up pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Jumps on us. There's Derek's guy Buxton.
Yeah, he's settling
Off the
in
board.
early 8th or back half of 7th. I don't expect him to move much. He's kind of everything's baked in. He's there. If you like him, you take him. If you don't, you avoid him.
Yep.
That's in 12 team league.
Mm-hmm.
He'll creep into the 6th in the 15s. Back end.
We're kind of in that third-ish tier range of catchers now. Perez, Will Smith, Adley Rushman going
again.
in
That's
the last 2 rounds.
That's pretty late for Rushman too. That's 3 catchers, 4 of them actually.
Yeah,
everyone but Real Muto seems to have slipped.
Even he did a little bit.
He did. You're right. Yep.
This is my kind of drafters. Nice, love it. Screw them catchers.
George Kirby off the board. Now Vlad's on the clock.
And he's moving up too. Pick. George Kirby. I don't know that I've seen Kirby in too many 7th rounds in the 12s. Vlad gets his guy.
Yeah, 94. 94 is his max. 98 or his min. 98 is his ADP.
All right, we'll go through one more round here, Darik, and then we'll let you get going because, like you said, you got some family stuff you need to attend to.
Just got to make sure my daughter gets home. It's 12 going on 17. So
that's fine. Thoughts about Tyler O'Neill there, Vlad?
I mean, he's my boy. I want him to stretch after he exercises. I want him to stay healthy and make it through an entire season because we saw what he's capable of in 2021 when he provided great fantasy profit. So I'd like to see him do it again.
Send him an FTN foam roller. Make sure he does that.
Yeah, he could use it. Absolutely. But yeah, he's been hitting second lately, which is nice. That was the spot that we thought maybe Wilson Contreras would be hitting in, maybe a little bit of Brendan Donovan, but Tyler O'Neill's been, at least in spring, has been settling in there. Would be an incredibly valuable
beautiful spot hit.
Yeah.
So I got some steal. I mean, I got a little bit of stolen bases. Yeah, I'm not too worried. I usually don't have these many steals at this point, but if you got like maybe 15 from O'Neill, 15 from Lindor, and 15, 20 from Albies, that's I think it's not a bad start.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good pick.
Back on the clock there.
Yeah, that was actually a little bit of a snipe there because I would have taken Abreu. I feel like that was a good pick for him right there. And first base does kind of die off, but Looks like I'll be going into punt city with first base. I'm going to just run through the positions here. Look at my cheat sheet. Could force a middle infielder early. There are a lot of good ones that have fallen.
I do like that combo there for team 12 on the turn with Swanson and Abreu.
Yep, no problem with that.
You know what? Let's do this. Let's just get ace closers and just like not really worry about it for quite some time. I can focus on other positions.
And I
think you
don't know
might
if you
be
guys
the
heard that
first
help
one.
call. I had to stop the auction there. If you heard that help call, that's what it was.
I think you might be the first one with 2, if I'm not mistaken. Let me do a quick look at the board. So yeah, is that just obviously you're taking a jump on the rest of the room here, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's always an issue with the guys, especially if you're doing the relief pitcher piece. Like after even here, after Clay Holmes, if you're looking at like you got like Bednar and Alexis Diaz, who are probably the closers, but on really bad teams. Then you start diving into the Daniel Bard, obviously a good a closer, probably due for some regression, not on a great team. And then you just get into a lot of question marks, right? Like nobody knows who's going to really how Minnesota is going to work out.
No one knows.
Seattle's
Rocco doesn't even know that.
Yeah, it's going to be fluid. It's going to be really, kind of annoying if you have one guy or not the other on either of those teams, and yeah, it's going to be situational game to game.
Yeah, and now you can.
I was just going to say the other thing you do is you're forcing everybody else now to respond, which is exactly what Team 10 just did. So you're kind of, you're putting pressure on everybody else in the league to kind of respond to what you're doing, which could be to your benefit later in terms of adding other pieces to your roster.
Right. You're not having to get another leave here with any type of closer. I mean, in 12s, we know how much are going to be available throughout the season. So you don't have to worry about relief pitching the rest of the draft.
And that was kind of the issue also taking one here is knowing that, right? The fact that for most of the season, it's going to be so easy to just kind of pick up, especially if people end up dropping off or get busy or football starts. You can always get the saves if you need them. But, obviously I passed up some good draft capital. There was a surplus of middle infielders. I already have both my middle infield, so I could have filled up my, MI spot right there. So it was an option, right? There's just so many ways I could have gone, but, whatever. We just draft and see what happens.
Yep.
If I can force somebody to go on tilt and take Kimbrel and Chapman in this round, then we're talking.
That would be impressive.
Yeah.
All right, so we're pulling
and we should
up
let folks know too that people who want to get into these online championship drafts, they typically get done in a little over 2 hours. I've watched some that have actually gotten done in under 2 hours.
Yep.
But usually about a little over 2. So they get done, pretty quickly, move at a good pace.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're looking for them in our lobby, it's pretty much every even hour the rest of the way through it. So starting noon, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 11:30 p.m. Eastern is basically when we run these. So, there you go. And then if you other ones like our cut line, which Vlad has already done a couple of pods on, or we've had Vlad and Maddie actually, those are the odd hours. And then every other kind of draft we have kind of sprinkles in there. So, but the big 2 online ones are the cut line and the RotoWire. So they're spaced out pretty well.
Yeah, there's such different drafts, and you have to like mentally prepared to draft one versus another. Even going from 15 teamers and doing these DCs, and now going to 12 teamers is completely different animals. Like the players that I'm looking into and digging deep into is like insane. Like I was looking at like Detroit Tigers backup or handcuffs to Alex Lang in case he falters. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy. Here it's a lot more smooth.
Yep. One guy I want to ask you about, a guy I have trouble figuring out where to put him. It just went Wander Franco. What are we getting from Wander Franco this year? What do you think we're getting from Wander Franco this year?
I think profit if he stays healthy. I think in general the Tampa Bay Rays are kind of a slept on offense. Everyone's thinking, oh, platoon all the time, but obviously some of these guys like Wander Franco are going to be playing every day. He's going to be hitting at or near the top of the lineup. Everyone's saying, oh, he's a better real life hitter than he is fantasy guy. But and then one year it'll happen. Could be this year. And then it's like, oh man, he's amazing for fantasy too. Could very well be. I don't think anyone's expecting a lot of home runs or even obviously even more than 15. Really, you won't find any projection system that has it. But if he hits more than 15, would not be surprised. If he steals more than 20 bases, would not be surprised. The most predictable things for me, the runs. I think he'll score 85 plus with ease, and also the batting average. I think he's arguably like the best hitter in like contact man in baseball, or one top 8. So probably can even get a 300 plus average out of him. Probably bank on maybe over 280, but I think over 300 is doable.
All right. I tell you what, guys, we're gonna call it a night here. Darik, you obviously got to take care of some family stuff. So we'll call it a night here. Vlad, want to thank you for hopping on the live stream. We'll let you get focusing back on the rest of your draft. So again, folks, we're going to do maybe one, or definitely one, but maybe a couple of more of these before we start the live events. And if you want to get into any one of these drafts, certainly this one, an online championship, a cut line, auctions, anything, go to playnfbc.com. Check out all of Vlad's work at FTN Fantasy. They do great stuff. All the content there is A+. We cannot recommend it enough. Again, Vlad, thanks for joining us tonight. Good luck in this draft. Certainly all the drafts that you're doing with us. We'll see you in a couple of weeks out in Vegas, okay?
Thank you, guys.
Yep. Safe travels, you guys, on the way out there.
All right. Good night, everybody.